Ladies and gentlemen, Season 9 of Call of Duty Mobile has arrived, which means it's time for our new top 10 guns in the game. If this video is helpful for you guys, make sure to drop a like down below. Big shout out to Call of Duty Mobile for sponsoring today's video. If you haven't already, you can download the game with the link in the description. We're going to go ahead and hop into it. While we haven't had any nerfs to any meta weapons this season, there are definitely a couple buffs that you guys are going to want to know about, and naturally that shuffles things up a bit in our top 10. But before we hop into that, obviously we got to cover our honorable mentions. First up, we got the Fennec. This is one that I could potentially see moving back into the top 10. It got a couple big time buffs to both ADS speed and the range on its extended barrel, which is basically a must-use attachment, as well as its hit flinch, which means it's going to be much more capable of keeping up with the rest of the meta in close to mid-range engagements, and at least makes gunfights winnable in the long range as well, although definitely not recommended. We've also got the KSP, which got a huge buff to the second damage phase from 25 damage all the way up to 30, which means it is once again capable of 3-tapping in the second damage phase, and its range got extended as well. Not necessarily saying we're back to prime KSP range, but it's way more usable now than it was previously. I've also dropped the Type 25 down to honorable mention. I could potentially see it going back up into our top 10 depending on some things that are expected to be added into the game, but as of right now, it doesn't have any skin that's on par with that of the Ram 7, so it doesn't have a big boost from that. I will also say the 34 round magazine is very challenging to use because of how fast the gun shoots. I definitely still think this is a very competitive and underrated weapon, but I don't think it's quite top 10 as of right now. One important thing to note is the Mythic Type 25 is being introduced this season, so depending on how that plays and how good the irons are, we could potentially see this back in the top 10. Lastly, we got the BP50, which is dropping out of our top 10 guns for the first time in well over a year. This is primarily just because of other guns getting buffs and the BP50 not getting any significant change. Not that I'm mad about it at all, given how dominant the BP was during its prime. Absolutely still competitive, but given that it has to have the 30 round magazine to be doing the same amount of damage that it was in its prime, it is a little bit limiting in a lot of scenarios.
Late addition, but it does look like the Sten SMG is also going to be meta viable to a degree. Has a lot of different attachments with different functionality, but effectively it can be an SMG version of the Ram 7. Biggest downsides are the fact that it does have very high recoil and very slow bullet speed, but presumably with some of the new attachments that you'll have, there should be ways to make it competitive with the rest of the meta.
Coming in at number 10, we've got the Tundra. This is another one I don't feel like I need to talk about that much heading into it. It's the number one sniper in the game. Great ADS time, great lethal zones, great mobility, great rate of fire. There's not much of a downside to it. We thought the 3-line rifle might potentially displace it, but it just had too many downsides, so while it might be fun to use, Tundra is absolutely still the sniper meta for right now. Coming in at number 9, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised to see this one either, in the HSO 405 being the best shotgun in the game. To be honest, I'm a little bit surprised we don't see this used more often in global ranked, and maybe it's used in other servers, but as far as NA goes, I very rarely see it. That being said, when I was playing China ranked on the PC version not long ago, it was everywhere. This thing completely dominates any close quarter combat, and especially on maps like Summit and Standoff, it's kind of a must use if you want to succeed in some capacity. But honestly, I'm kind of thankful that for the time being, the majority of global doesn't understand how broken this thing is. Coming in at number 8, we've got the XM4 and the Groza. I know a lot of people were surprised to see the Groza on the list last week, but honestly, going back through and playing with all of our top 10 guns again to get a feel, I think this is the most underrated gun in the game. Compared to the rest of the weapons on this list, I feel like it actually holds up more consistently in the mid to long range. To make it more competitive with some of the other marksman rifles on the list, it doesn't have a ton of recoil anymore. It has capable 3-tap potential, and it's got really good base iron sights. There's not a lot of downsides to this gun, and I think its reputation is the biggest reason that we're not seeing it used much. Obviously, with the XM4 that we have placed beside it, you have a big upside in a built-in red dot on the Mythic version, but if you're a free-to-play player choosing between these two guns, I would say absolutely no question go with the Groza. I think as more and more people give this weapon a try, they're going to realize just how powerful this thing is. Next up at number 7, they saw it drop out of our top 10 guns for one season and said, that can't happen. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the HVK is back into the top 10 guns. It was only in there for like 2.5 years, so it's only right that we move it back in after the buff that it got this season. With the new buff to the large caliber ammo, it now does the same amount of of damage everywhere on the upper body, which means you are guaranteed to 3-tap in the first damage phase when landing all upper body shots, which is huge for the weapon's consistency in close range engagements and makes it more consistent in the mid to long range as well. Lack of 3-tap consistency was really the biggest reason that it wasn't in my top 10 last season, so as long as you're not hitting leg shots, this thing is going to absolutely shred in the close range, especially due to the fact that the upper arm is one of the easier multipliers to hit, so not having to worry about unlucky shots as a result of enemy movement or bullet spread accuracy is a huge bonus. As it has for the last however many years, it can also 2-tap to the head in the first damage phase, with the notable downside being that the HVK large caliber magazine doesn't have a huge ammo capacity, so use your ammo sparingly. After that, we once again have the DRH. Got a buff a couple seasons back, definitely feels really good, but I don't know if it's my aim or if it's something else. This just hasn't really felt nearly as dominant as it did previously. Maybe I need to give it a couple more tries just because I might not have been feeling it whenever I was using it, but I think we kind of hit the nail on the head last season when we moved this down to the number 6 spot. There's no question it's definitely still a meta viable option, but struggles not having a prime time to kill zone like some of the other guns on this list and not having super strong mobility alongside it. Gotta make sure to aim for the upper body because much like the HVK, you've got to be landing those upper body shots. Leg shots can be very punishing, especially in the second damage phase. Moving into our top 5, as expected, the Ram 7 has held up, especially with the addition of the mythic version. Built-in red dot combined with very solid time to kill at 210 ms in the first damage phase with an achievable 4-shot in the second damage phase as well has made this a very consistent option in the current meta. And fortunately enough, we didn't really have to see any buffs to the weapon to make it that way either, so it's not like it's going to be a super overbearing one. I don't think there are any scenarios where you could realistically call this a broken weapon either. I would say this is one of the more balanced meta weapons that we've had over the span of the last couple years, and if we ever see a nerf to the other guns that are in our top 5, I would be very happy to see this as a long time meta in the game, just not too long. Next up at number 4, we've got the VMP, the number 2 SMG on the list, and the only true SMG here. Great up close time to kill, great mobility, a lot of different ways that you can build it out because of the versatility of attachments, and an achievable 180 ms time to kill when you're landing upper body shots. Add on to that the fact that you don't really need the mythic version because the base irons are so good. This should definitely be the go-to option for aggressive players in Season 9 of Call of Duty Mobile. As with most SMGs, it does have some downsides in its damage drop-off and not having the best BSA or bullet speed, but if you're using it in the proper scenarios or comboing it with overkill with one of the other options that we've got in our top 10 guns, this thing is the ideal SMG. Coming in at number 3, we once again have the Odin as the top 2-tap assault rifle in COD Mobile. This is another one of those that's been in our top 10 guns for so long that I don't feel like I need to give it a lot of explanation, but consistent 2-tap to the upper body in the close range and pretty much infinite 3-tap range make this a phenomenal option. There's some very good battle pass blueprints that make it so you don't necessarily 100% have to be using the mythic version, but the mythic version's definitely a pretty big upgrade. With that being said, if you're not a super accurate player, I wouldn't recommend this because landing lower body shots is extremely punishing. The 3-tap time to kill is not very competitive because it is such a slow firing weapon. So if you're not as experienced, I would definitely recommend one of our faster firing options, as this is a little more niche for higher skilled players. It also has pretty slow mobility and bad BSA, so those 3 combined make it one of the tougher options to use on this list. Coming in at number 2, we once again have the Type 63 marksman rifle. It replaced the SKS a few months back. For those of you who play COD Mobile, you understand why. It has the same ability to 1-tap to the head anywhere on the map, better mobility, better rate of fire, actually has achievable faster rate of fire than the Odin, which is bananas because the 2-tap consistency is way better. If it wasn't a tap to fire weapon, it would probably be far and away the number 1 gun in the game, but the fact that it is a marksman rifle does mean that you need to be playing claw in order to use it effectively, so it is limiting to some degree across the player base because not everybody plays claw. And the number 1 gun in the game for going on nearly a year at this point is the USS-9. As expected, none of the nerfs that they've added to the gun were enough to move it out of the number 1 spot because it was that broken when it was first introduced into the game. Despite nerfs to the headshot multiplier, the bullet spread accuracy, the mobility, I think think I got a nerf to bullet speed as well. It still has the best 3-tap consistency of all the weapons on our list that are 3-shot kills. It can still 2-tap to the head in the first damage phase with the damage magazine, and it's an SMG, so it can still keep up with all the other weapons as far as mobility goes. And the default version of the weapon is not gonna hurt you at all because I get shredded by it on a daily basis. But that's gonna wrap things up for the top 10 guns in COD Mobile. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, drop a like down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.